My favorite, though, if you're talking about personifications of problems, are a couple that I've made up. One is a spokesman for the nuclear power industry who materialized after 3 Mile Island accident happened. He's a spokesmutant.
A spokesmutant?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Tony, they must have
and
just...
he explains what's going on. His first appearance was with a diagram of a nuclear power plant, and he was explaining that they just had a little problem with the core. In the core was a human brain.
Oh, jeez. Oh, you must have gotten wonderful letters. See, that's the joy of doing this, because you can kind of do that knowing that all these people at 3 Mile Island are going to see it, and they're going to all be mad. They're all going to be saying, "Oh, that guy in Philadelphia, how can he do this?" Symbols are really exciting. A lot of people don't know that. I guess most of the symbols that we use, the classic symbols like the donkey and the elephant, and Uncle Sam, in fact, were all drawn by Thomas Nast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do one of those? Do like an elephant or something like that. Let me just see how you do that. And do you use the elephant a lot? Are these
Well,
symbols?
I don't think I use them a lot. I use them when they become necessary. Elephants are. I tend to draw real simple elephants.
And then if they're maybe the Reagan people, maybe they're the...
Well, if they're really right-wing, they turn into woolly mammoths.
But the huge, the huge...
Well, draw them like this.
Yeah.
And they have tusks.
Okay, now you've got one more symbol that you were telling me one time.
The deficit?
The deficit! Oh, gosh, yes, you've got to do the deficit.
Well, this is a woman who Ronald Reagan is carrying on an illicit affair with. And she is the personification of the deficits.
So it's a woman?
It is a woman, yes.
Okay.
More or less. Her face is actually modeled after our dog.
Is she a dog? Is that?
Well, no, not really. I mean, she's sort of from an opera.
It's a bulging deficit. That's.
Well, and she's been growing as time has gone by. When she first was spotted on a date with Ronald Reagan at the Western Economic Summit, she was more or less the same size. But.
And then what was the cartoon?
Oh, they walked into a cocktail party at the Economic Summit, and Ronald and his date, the deficit lady, and Francois Mitterrand turned to Margaret Thatcher and said, "Ronald's charming, but I just don't see what he sees in her." Anyway, Reagan is now about this big.
Yeah. You don't stop drawing cartoons until the fat budget stops singing or sings. Oh my gosh. Now, aside from symbols, do you have any stock characters? Do you have characters that you find yourself drawing a lot in your cartoons?
Not really.
I mean, like John Q. whatever.
No, I just make up different people, and I throw my wife in occasionally.
Yeah. Well, I see you draw. I see you draw pirates a lot.
Well, they're fun. I mean, romantic fictional figures. I use fairy tales, and folklore is a very good vehicle. Often the metaphors are really wonderful to use in modern political situations. So I use that a lot.
I brought up pirates because aside from a cartoonist, I mean, you also look like a pirate. I can see you going, "Arr," Now, okay, you draw a lot from fairy tales. Is that how you kind of got interested in doing children's illustrations?
Well, I got interested in that actually in college when I took a course in children's literature and discovered that there is an incredible body of really wonderful artwork being done in what we call children's books and picture books. It's the only place left where artists can do book illustration. And so I've started collecting them, and 3 years ago got into the field, and it's a perfect alternative to doing political cartoons because it gives you an outlet for total whimsy and fiction. You know from your comic strip, it's a lot of fun writing stories. This is a pirate who had an accident and his forearm was chopped off, but instead of just getting a hook, he has a Swiss Army knife.
Oh, Tony,
You never know what's going to happen.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, okay, now, do you write these things yourself?
The first two I did, I illustrated someone else's text, and now I'm writing one that I don't really want to talk about because I'm told it'll never materialize if I talk about it.
Right, right. Now, what is that like to collaborate with somebody? I mean, if somebody comes up with a story and then...
Well, I work with Dutton, and they have a system that does not allow collaboration. They send me a text, I illustrate it, send them back drawings, and then if it's a picture book, they will go through and eliminate any text that is now redundant because I've done an illustration. So the magic of a picture book is that the pictures and the text have to be not redundant but perfectly intertwined, and so that the book is not complete without either.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And I've never met any of the authors that I've dealt with. They think also that it's better to just keep these two people working separately. Yeah.
Now, have any of these guys ever kind of have they ever seen any of your drawings where they said, "No, this isn't what I had in mind when I"?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh, isn't that wonderful, though, Tony? I mean, that you've never met any of these people.
Well, I'd like to.
Well, yeah,
and
except
I will.
for
They live all over the country.
You know, I mean, but you're doing your own separate thing, and he's doing his own separate thing.
Yeah, fortunately, so far they've liked what I've done, so they haven't felt that I've ruined their text.
You know, here we deal in our editorial cartoons with our own generation and those older than us, but most of the time, young kids, never read the editorial page. And through the children's books, you're about to touch a generation that you've never had anything to do with before.
That's exciting. Also, it's a good vehicle for dealing with everlasting kinds of truths and issues, as opposed to the day-to-day detail that we sometimes get mired in.
Mm-hmm. I remember one time you were telling me that you wanted to get to know some of the people who read your children's books. You know,
Right.
And then you went to a school one time.
Yeah, that is a real joy to talk to 6, 7, 8-year-olds,
mm-hmm.
because they are so interested in the magic of drawing,
mm-hmm.
and they are endlessly delighted by somebody who's able to make a line turn into whatever it might be.
So how do you talk to 6-year-olds? I mean, you.
Well, I asked them who likes to draw. Everybody raised their hands, and I said, okay, what do we draw? And one little kid says, a snake. So I said, okay, we'll draw a snake. And I said, well, snakes are real easy to
mm-hmm.
draw. What else shall we draw? And the kids were trying to think about what might be good to draw, and it was about December 23rd. So I said, well, what time of the year is it? One kid yelled, Santa Claus! So I said, all right, let's think about this. What happens if Santa Claus drops down a chimney and finds himself confronted with this big snake? So at this point, the kids get incredibly interested, and they're just, my goodness, what's going to happen? So one little kid says, Santa Claus could stomp him with his boots. And I said, yeah, he probably could, but on the other hand, he's probably a kind of peaceful guy, probably even nonviolent, who knows? So I said, he probably wouldn't do that, but he would probably try and convince the snake to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
So they might have an arm wrestling contest, and you'd have Santa Claus and the snake arm wrestling.
Oh, is that wonderful? The kids must have loved that.
They were having a great time, yeah. And anyway, it ended up with Santa Claus wins the arm wrestling contest, and it turns out that he forgot to wrap one of the presents up, so that the snake ends up being a Christmas present.
Tony, the kids must have just loved it. You know, I mean, I go make speeches at grade schools, and I just kind of talk about the deficit and how Reagan is doing, and the kids are all going like this, you know. I mean,
Well, now with your comic strip, though, you can you know, talk
Yeah,
about
but
Mother
that's-
Goose and Grimm.
it must be exciting, kind of touching that future generation. I mean, here we do cartoons, and we talk to the adults and probably the kids. I mean, the people who you know, who are around us. But you're talking to future generations.
Well, the most wonderful thing is that kids who are that age, I mean, you know, we've done this for a long time. We're professionals. They haven't lost sight of the fact that when you make a line come out of a pen and it is able to turn into anything in the world, that's a form of magic. And to get in touch with that again is really thrilling.
That is so exciting, and you're exciting. It was so wonderful having you here. You know, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please join us again for another wonderful visit in the world of cartooning. I'm Mike Peters.
The World of Cartooning with Mike Peters is made possible by a grant from the Mead Corporation. Paper, packaging, school supplies, and electronic publishing.